Cool. So we're recording. Thank you to all those who have joined us today for this first ever. This is not a knowledge drop like the ones we've done in the past. It's a different version that we're calling a fuck up drop, which I'll let Laura explain in a minute. But just to go through some of the housekeeping stuff really quick, like I mentioned, we just started recording, so this will be saved in our knowledge drop blog archive for all of history. If you want to share this with your great-great-grandkids someday, hopefully this will still exist then. And if you want to use the chat box, which some of you guys are already doing over on the side here, feel free to go ahead and just message to each other. Make sure it's set to all panelists and attendees so everybody sees the funny, witty things you're typing into there. And then also just to point out, because this is different than a normal Zoom room, in the webinar we have a question and answer box. So if you have questions that come up during either Flavius or Shannon's story, feel free to type them in there because we'll use that at the end of their stories to kind of circle back and answer some of the questions you guys might have about these crazy times in their lives. Feel free to use that, at any point during it. We'll come back to it at the end. So that's kind of it, I think, from my side. But I did want to give it over to Laura to let her kind of introduce where this idea came from, because she actually came to me on Slack with the idea a month or so ago, and I got really excited about it because it's such a good one. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, for sure. So Fuck Up Night is it's a kind of a real organization, actually. They do these events in over 300 cities, and since we are a very cool remote nation and we are spread across many cities, I thought, well, we could do this virtual. I also did one or two of these within my group, which is CanUni. I just love it. I love the vulnerability aspect of it. So honestly, like any kind of activity that prompts vulnerability from one person, I find it's often contagious. And I think that's really beautiful because it creates real connection. And I think that learning cements, which is the second reason that I love Fuck Up Night so much. It's a great, great way to learn. So we talk about how it's smart to learn from your mistakes, but wise to learn from the mistakes of others. So my hope for you all as the audience is when you listen to these stories, listen for how you could also be susceptible to have the same kind of fuck up. That's really the point. And I always love and admire when people have the vulnerability to share like this. I think it's the most badass people amongst us who do it. And the most successful people have the most fuck ups, basically. So thank you very much for the two of you sharing your story, and I'm excited. So I think, are we going to go straight to Flavius now? Or back to you, Chad?
Let's do it. Flav, you're on, man.
I'm ready. All right, just as we practiced. Share, present. Let me arrange the chat windows. Cool. Can everyone hear me?
Great.
Yeah, sweet. So hello, I am Flavius. I am currently in Belgrade with Aurora, and the title of my presentation is called Cryptopocalypse 2K18. So, a little bit of foreshadowing. What's about to drop? My investments, your stomach. And why am I dropping it? Catharsis, really, because presenting is cheaper than getting a therapist. And finally, to motivate everybody to make far better choices than I did in hopes of redeeming myself eventually. So let's begin. Once upon a time in 2016, it was fall, and I got a text message from one of my friends. We went to college together. And he asked me, hey, can we meet up at Starbucks? I got something I want to talk to you about. So of course I said yes, and I sauntered on in, sat my bad self down with a pumpkin spice latte and was like, sup? And he was like, sup? Well, he dropped this one-liner on me after our formalities were out of the way, and he said, you want to start a hedge fund? And I'm all like, yeah. So for a little bit of context, this guy, brilliant dude, he's a mathematician, economist, and what he had done was he wrote a little Python script to trade cryptocurrency on the internet. The magical internet funny money machine was born, and the way this worked was you more or less got multiple systems and APIs to talk together, and you can chain different exchanges and make trades between them and always ensure a profit. So you would take in a little bit of crypto and feed it through, and it would come out with a little more, and you just keep feeding it back and forth. And if this sounds like the shaving pennies plot from Office Space, it's pretty damn close. There were no humans in the loop. That was the beautiful thing about it. It was all computer-to-computer action. And yes, this was the literal passive income money machine that everyone dreamed of. So things were pretty great. I said, sure. So we began working together. And after a few months, well, it worked. We gave the system $300 and in about 8-ish months returned nearly 7 figures of profit. We were making anywhere from 6 to 14% per trade, so on every single loop. We were racking up stupid amounts of profit. At one point, we calculated we're making about $4,500 per hour, and that's roughly 312,400% return on investment. So, yeah. Now, what follows next is pretty predictable. I quit while I was ahead, kept my cool, sold my assets, diversified my portfolio, played it safe, and everything worked out. Yeah, no, that's actually not what happened. I went shopping, and I went to music festivals all over the country. I lit up my social media, promoting stuff. And of course, I signed up for remote year. Because what's cooler than traveling around the world on crypto? Yo, my block is off the chain. Hashtag passion passport. Follow me on Instagram. I'm from Machu Picchu. That was me. Yeah, that was the dream. I wanted to live it. That was my goal. And in one of my bolder moves, I wrote a blog post on my blog called Cryptogenesis, a guide to purchasing your first coins, where I walk the reader through all the steps necessary to get started with crypto. But of course, being the decent human being, I put in a little disclaimer saying, I'm not responsible for your shit. So, here I was, Mr. Asset Manager, crypto hedge fund, millionaire, almost, sort of. I was ready. I had my vision. I had my passport. I had everything I needed. And so, December 31st, I set off for remote year, and I met my family on the rooftop in Buenos Aires, and that night, Aurora was born. It's so beautiful. Well, we partied, we celebrated, everything was lovely, and the following morning, I wake up at 6 p.m. from the worst hangover of my life to find something interesting had happened. Shit broke. Everything was on fire. My system was freaking out. Everything. We tied our system to Slack. So every time something broke, Slack would just light up. It was screaming. Well, what had happened was we had our own version of Y2K, where I checked a box a while back in 2017 that said, don't remind me of this shit until next year. And well, that next year had come. And so our database cluster bounced. And when it came back up, everything was kaput. This was the result of many months of technical debt, over-engineering, and a lot of mistakes. So let's talk about over-engineering for a second. It's a common trap, and it's typically something that you do when you're insecure and have imposter syndrome. And here I was thinking that, oh, Mr. Moneyman, crypto hedge fund dude, super engineer, you gotta like keep your shit airtight. And so I tried. But that meant that instead of just getting the job done and passing the frickin' salt, I created this. And it caused a lot of problems because this is not what people usually need. But lesson learned, hindsight is 20/20. So let's fast forward. About 2 weeks later, I mostly patch everything. After I fix one bug, another comes up. But we've been down, not a single trade in 2 weeks. So everything finally comes online again. It's a complete battle, and I'm thinking everything's fine. So we're running again. All is well. Hopes are coming back up. When I hear a soft little knock on my inbox. Knock, knock. Boom. It's the tax man. Q4 had ended, and it was time to pay my taxes. Well, crypto happened to finish very strong in December, as I'm sure some of you remember, quite strong. And the interesting thing about this number is it's exactly the amount of money that I had in liquid US dollars that I allotted for remote year. So all of remote year, fund money, all together, this was everything I had. Everything else was in crypto. So I had to come to a decision. Do I liquidate my reserves in capital and hope that crypto comes back strong, or do I sell my assets, panic, and just give up all hope? I had a decision to make. So I took a look at the markets. This is actually not the worst. This was sometime around January, early February, and so it was a complete bloodbath. And so looking at this, I had to make a decision. And of course, I did not do the rational thing. I decided to get rid of all my US dollars because crypto could never fail me. Well, that was the first of many mistakes. Not my proudest moment. I decided to hodl, and yeah, that was when things started going downhill. Yeah. There's this interesting quote that I really like, and it goes something like this. We are all at a wonderful ball where champagne sparkles in every glass and soft laughter falls upon summer air. We know, by the rules, that at some moment the Black Horsemen will come scattering through the great terror stores, wreaking vengeance and scattering the survivors. Those who leave early are saved, but the ball is so splendid. No one wants to leave while there's still time. So everyone keeps asking, what time is it? What time is it? But none of the clocks have any hands. I knew this. I knew it, I kind of understood it, but things were different. It was 2018. We were the millennials, the crypto kids. Bitcoin was about fighting the institutions, fighting back adversity. And just like in World War I, when the horsemen come in, you take your technologically advanced machine gun and mow them down. That's not how it worked. That's really not how it works. So let's take a moment to talk about the dangers of ego. Now, in the beginning of the year, I set out to be somebody. That particular somebody had a few characteristics, such as being a GQ model, something of an explorer, a charming and seductive playboy. Well, that's who I want to be, and it actually kind of worked. I was able to gain a few thousand followers in a few weeks, and it felt pretty good. I had the validation. I had the attention. I had all those things that I wanted that come with being somebody. But the problem with being somebody is it's usually mutually exclusive from doing something. You can be somebody, but to do that, you have to make compromises, and you have to turn your back on friends. And even though you'll be a member of the club, you'll get followers, praise, and fame, it's sometimes not super fulfilling. The other option is to do something. And when you choose to do something instead, you probably won't get noticed. You may not be popular, or you might not even get rewarded, but you don't have to compromise yourself. You'll be true to yourself and to your friends. And so that was the cost of more or less this whole year. That was the big revelation. And truthfully, I cared more about this image than common sense, which is why I lost everything and paid dearly for it. I wish I could tell you that that was the end of the suffering, but no. The rest of 2018 went about as well as everyone can predict. Everything kept getting worse. Crypto kept going further downhill. And I kept making mistakes, kept missing deadlines, kept over-engineering until the very last day when we could no longer operate. Everyone was broke and we had to shut everything down. And this may be fuck up night for you guys, but for me, it's just Wednesday. I am still living this. I have 14 US dollars in my bank account. That's enough to buy me roughly 6 pomegranates at the market. And I'm currently waiting on a direct deposit from my mom so I can stay remote here. The good news is that next Tuesday, I start a new job, a new remote job, so I can stay in remote here. I can keep traveling. and all should be well. So hopefully this is the bottom and things go up from here. So if we had to round everything off, here's some of the things that I've learned. Perfectionism kills. Shipped is better than perfect. In a fast-moving space like technology, especially cryptocurrency, you don't have time to get things right. Ugly code wins 9 out of 10 times, in my experience, 10 out of 10, and you just need to get the damn thing out the door. For everything that comes next, ego is the enemy. There's a phenomenal book, and I wouldn't have been able to arrive at any of the insights that I have without it. It's titled Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And the premise is that no matter what you find yourself in, ego will fight you at every step, whether that's in your aspirations as you climb, whether that's once you've found success, or that's once you've already failed to reach it and you're striving again and recovering. Simple is better than complex, and complex is better than complicated. Sometimes I just need to write a simple script and log the results to a text file, but instead I spent 2 weeks building out this super cool system that Google and AWS and all these other mega companies are doing because I just felt better and I wanted to be that guy. Once again, you have to choose whether you want to be somebody or to do something, and listen to those that come before you. If it looks like a bubble, it probably is a bubble, and no amount of profit can change the truth. So with that, I'm going to open this up to questions and comments. This is my information if you want to get a hold of me. Follow me on Instagram. So.
Thanks, Flavius. I have a question that I'll just jump in with quickly. What can you tell us about the status of your friendship with the people you are in business with?
Ooh, it's about as well as you'd expect it to be. I lost my best friend. This was the guy that I officiated his marriage. I was his best man. He was my only friend for a number of years, and I genuinely fucked up that relationship. Too much, too little, trying to go from being a friend, then a business partner, dealing with all the failure that comes with this year, not being able to roll back and start treating him like a friend. Things were too business for too long, so he didn't know anyone I was traveling with. He wasn't familiar with what was going on. He was kind of left in the dark, and our relationship had not recovered. So at this point, he decided that I'm no longer worth being in his life, so we're no longer speaking. And maybe if one day I change and improve and kind of get to a point where he values my friendship again, we can pick it up. But that was pretty much the worst part of this whole year. So yeah, this is a real danger.
It's raw and it's real and it's happening for you now. It's never too late, is what I would say. I know lots of stories where people do come back. So thank you very much for your openness.
Thanks for listening.
Any other questions out there in Knowledge Drop Land? Feel free to write them in the question and answer box, and maybe even at the end of Shannon's story, if there's a question that's more specific to Flavius, we can still come back to it. Well, actually, no, because Flavius, you got to run, right? I don't know if you want to let the world out.
I do have some time for Andre. Oh, that's just a comment, not a question.
I have a question that I would love your take on, and we talked about this a little bit, but you never really got into it, is like your lessons that you sort of gleaned on everybody just now were very specific to the roller coaster that you were on. But like lots of people were on this crypto roller coaster, and just in general, like I fell into it a little bit. I didn't have nearly as much skin in the game as you did. But I'm just wondering if you have like lessons that you think we all should have sort of taken away from what happened there at the end of 2017 and going into 2018, and like where it's currently sitting today, and how you kind of now where you're at reflect back on all of that.
Sure. So this particular story was interesting because I had to combine the storytelling elements and the more interpersonal stuff with the technical, and I could redo this entire thing focusing just on the technical and the markets and all that. There was a lot to be learned. What I think I learned the most is that if you're going to call yourself a hedge fund, you should fucking hedge. We did not. We did not hedge our bets, and so all of our holdings were in crypto. We did not take anything out of the markets. We kept hodling until the very end. And so that's what cost us a lot of money, quitting while you're ahead, playing it safe. But also some of the problem comes with easy come, easy go. The money comes in so quickly, it doesn't even feel like it's real anymore. It's just integers on a screen. So you can't really comprehend what $937,500 actually is because it fluctuates so much. Treating it as less of an investment and more as gambling is also something I tell people. Never put in more than you're willing to lose. For us, it started off small. We got a lot and then we lost a lot. So that kind of still holds true because we only had a small investment. But the thing is, we made assumptions. We assumed it would be enough to get a bunch of people on board to support multiple families and relationships. It was myself, the two co-founders, their spouses. It was a lot of people depending on this. And so we kind of grew too quickly. When it comes to crypto specifically, I am not an investor. I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't really say too much on this. Just let's see what happens. Don't build your castle on wet sand, and maybe things will work out for you guys. So.
I love that. That's like that Kanye little image you put in there. It's like, I don't know, it might ruin your life, though. So, like, don't listen to me. But no, man, thank you so much for telling your story, and for, like, people who are commenting in the chat box for just being vulnerable and opening up. I think came through really well. And yeah, man, I think everybody's rooting for you. You got a bunch of people hoping that your next job goes super well. Come back big time. But yeah, incredible story, man. And we know you got to run. I think Aurora has their farewell event tonight. So Flavia says, got to go catch a boat, like literally go catch a boat. So
yeah. All right. Much love, guys. Take care.
Thank you, brother. Cheers, man. And with that, we're going to give it over to the other star of the show. This is Shannon.
So what's about to drop, I was a virtual assistant for the coaching industry, authors and speakers. A scarcity mindset, it does rub off. Don't negotiate your time or your pricing. If the potential client has to sell himself to you, then run. And why I'm dropping this: failure is okay as long as you learn something. Don't feel shame, and don't ignore the red flags. They are not just pretty decorations waving in the air. And I ignored all of the red flags. So in 2005, I started my first business. I was a virtual assistant, and the kinds of tasks I was doing weren't administrative. I didn't do bookkeeping. I didn't set appointments. I didn't do anything like that. I have a high technical ability, and so I built WordPress websites. I created newsletters using CRMs like Infusionsoft, One Shopping Cart, ActiveCampaign, pretty much you name the CRM or the autoresponder, I worked in it, and would post blogs, basically whatever my clients needed me to do that was of a technical nature, sales pages, landing pages, creating marketing funnels. I did all of that. I built it all myself. So 10 years goes by, and I'm not making enough money. And I feel like, you know what, I'm way more than a virtual assistant. So I partnered up with a company in 2015 called Digital Marketer, and I created a new business called Up Automation. And we were going to become a one-stop shop for all things digital marketing. And instead of me doing the work, I was going to be the one going out and finding clients, and I was going to bring on a team. So in January of 2016, I hired my first contractor. Within 3 months, I had 4 people working with me and a handful of clients who needed more than their budgets could handle. And that was where my sort of scarcity came in. I didn't know what my worth was. And so I wasn't charging enough money because it was, even though I could pay my team, I still didn't have anything left for myself. So you have to charge what you're worth in order to see a return on your investment. And so my financial goal for 2016 was to hit 6 figures. And that was the most money I'd ever made at that point in time. So I was about $8,000 shy of hitting that 6-figure goal. So I was really excited, really happy. Had a little bit more money. Of course, the elections happen. I went to a digital marketer event. And it was at that event that we were coached by a gentleman named Jason Swank, and he helps digital marketing agencies actually charge what they're worth. And he basically said, you need to revamp your website. You need to start charging anywhere between 4 to 5 figures for the type of services that we were doing. And what we were doing is we were literally, digital marketer has this thing, they call it the machine, and it's this huge marketing funnel. And it's got all of these bells and whistles and automations and timings, and literally once you go in, it just runs you like a machine. And so it's all about email marketing. And receiving those automated messages that most of us hate, or that we opt in for, and probably don't read most of. And so I, was at that point, I was going to be building this stuff out. I was charging $15,000 per client. I was requiring a commitment. Things were going really well. And so I decided because of the elections, I decided I'm going to leave the United States and move to London and manage my team from there. By the beginning of 2017, I had brought on this gentleman who, again, big red flag, he had to sell himself to me. He had to tell me why I should be working with him, why he would make such a good client. The guy was a nightmare. We charged him $3,500 a month, and the amount of work that we did was way more than what he was paying us. We went above and beyond. And so at that point, I'm thinking we're in the money, but we're not. We're actually we're going into negative balances. It becomes this situation where I brought on 2 new people. So all of a sudden there's a mismanagement. I've mismanaged the funds, and it wasn't so much that I was spending more on myself. I was trying to make sure that we were getting tasks done. So we were mismanaging time, we were mismanaging money. We were doing way more work than we were being paid to do. And a lot of things that were happening was I wasn't setting clear expectations. I wasn't setting clear expectations for my clients, and I wasn't setting clear expectations for my team. And so lots of, our email arguments are happening, clients are leaving, and then new clients would come in. And then I decided to make this gal that was working with me project manager. And I trusted her to basically manage the team and to make sure that tasks were getting done. And instead, she would disappear for large amounts of time. And she had 4 boys and a husband, and she was the sole provider. And so I understand that she would disappear, but I was paying her for time that she wasn't around. And that was very, very frustrating. And she would constantly come in and complain about not having money. And yet I would pay her before I would pay the team. And the more she complained about the money, it seemed like money would disappear. There was less and less of it for me I was having a hard time bringing in clients. She had such a major scarcity mindset. I already had my own scarcity issues to deal with, but it rubbed off. And it was like this times 10 horrible situation. I would pay her at the end of each week, and then I would make the rest of the team wait for 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks before I could pay them. And so at one point, go to the next slide. In April 2017, decided to come back I was back from London at that point, and she basically just decided to disappear. I had hired a coach, so I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize, you guys. I had hired a business coach to help me take care of my cash flow issues and bring in new clients. Because basically I hadn't brought in a new client in almost 2.5 months. And so whatever money was there was dwindling fast. And so I hired the business coach. She told me about using LinkedIn and using DuckSoup. And I've done a knowledge drop already on how to find clients using LinkedIn. It's my third business and it's actually doing well, but that's sort of how that happened, was the failure of this. So I decide, once the coach, tells me what to do, she doesn't give me a strategy. I actually have to figure out the strategy on my own. But that's where I put all my energy, because my job as the founder and CEO of Up Automation is to get clients to come through the door. It's not to actually do the tasks that the team are supposed to do. And I am trusting my project manager to handle that piece of it. So starting to get some leads, bring some people in, still haven't closed anything yet. And then out of the blue, one day she leaves, no notice, nothing. I'm trying to email her, she's not responding. And the reason that she left was because I had told her, because I'd been paying her every week and making the team wait. Well, this was the time I needed to pay the team. I'd gone way too long not paying the team, and they were doing a large percentage of the work. So I told her she was going to have to wait for 2 weeks. And so at that point she left. She was just like, I can't work for free. And I understand that. I totally understand that. I'm the same way, we can't work for free. But I still needed her. I still was taking care of her. I was just trying to do my best. But cash flow issues were already an issue. Like, there was just no money. So she left. She wouldn't get on the phone and have a conversation. And so one of the clients that we had brought on, that she was in her third month with us, was upset that my project manager, who had been the main person communicating with her, had left. And this woman sent me a scathing email telling me what a horrible human being I was, that she never heard from me, which wasn't true. I was CC'd in everything, like I knew everything that was going on. And she decided, she's like, I'm going to do a chargeback. So within 24 hours, she did two months of chargebacks, which was $7,000. So imagine already having cash flow issues. I'm already like Bank of America and overdraft fees. Like, oh my God, if I had to tally how much that was in overdraft fees for just a 5-month period, just crazy insane, the amount of money. So $7,000 in the hole. She does the 2 chargebacks. Within 24 hours, negative $7,000. I had to let every single one of my clients go, and I had to explain to them what happened, which was really embarrassing. I felt shame. And the woman that had left already had made me feel like shit. And then I had to let my entire team go. And so I sat there pretty much and cried for an entire week. Actually, for 2 weeks, I cried. Just felt totally sorry for myself. I was humiliated. The upside is I did fight the chargeback, and I did win it. Unfortunately, it takes 45 to 90 days to hear anything back. At that point, the damage is already done. You can't come back from that. And so I was just really embarrassed. I was, at that point I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna look for another job. And then it's like, nope, I love being an entrepreneur. I love owning my own business. I love being my own boss, setting my own time. And I also had remote year in the back of my mind, because in April, that was when I had first seen remote year, and I applied for it, because back then you actually had to apply and you had to be picked. And I think that was another thing that my project manager was a little bit jealous of, was because this was something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be able to work and travel like I am now. But again, it was a blessing in disguise to lose everything. It was humiliating. but I'm glad that it happened, because I wouldn't be where I am at all. I wouldn't be where I am now. The scarcity mindset, like the biggest thing is, if you're working with somebody, or if you've partnered with somebody who's constantly going, oh my God, that's so expensive, or I don't have the budget, it's a scarcity mindset. If you go into it, if you go into anything with that, that's what you're going to get. You're not going to, if you don't think you have enough, then you're not going to have enough. So you have to change the way that you think about it. And the biggest thing for me is, I won't ever work with another person. Like, I won't ever hire another person like my project manager again, because of her scarcity mindset. Like, I was working so hard. I would do these mantras and prayers to try and like make that sort of scarcity mindset go away. But then I just had her constantly in my ear. I need more, I need more, I need more. We're so broke. And just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and it's not any fun. The other lessons: set clear expectations, no matter what it is that you're doing. My clients thought that by building out these sales funnels that we were putting together for them, that there was a guarantee that money was just gonna roll in. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, and you just can't guarantee everything. You can't guarantee that people are gonna buy their stuff. So set clear expectations for yourself, for your team, and for your clients. And Flava said it as well, you know, check your ego at the door. Yeah, you might be doing really well one month, and then next month there'll be nothing. So hold on to a little bit of what you've got, so that it gets you through. Ultimately, charge what you're worth. If anybody listening, or if you know anybody who's got a marketing agency and you guys are only charging like 300, 400, 500, if you're charging less than 1,500 for your services, you are not charging enough. There is a lot of work involved in what we do when we are creating these things for our clients. And if you don't think you're worth it, your clients won't think you're worth it. And don't ever negotiate your rates. Probably one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned, and I don't, even with what I do now. As soon as somebody says, do you want to do a revenue share, or will you take $1,000 a month for this? At that point, I say, you know what? Nope, and you're not someone I want to work with. They will be a pain in the ass the entire time, and they will nickel and dime you to death. Ultimately, hire the right people for the tasks. My project manager was not capable of doing the job that I thought she was capable of doing. And I actually, like the very first guy that I hired, he's still working with me today. Like, I went back and rehired him when I started my third business. He was actually the right person for the job, and I didn't trust it. I allowed her to talk me out of putting him in that position. So who knows what would have happened, but coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? The other thing is if you're a marketing agency, don't be a one-stop shop for marketing. Yes, it's convenient. The issue is there are certain things that you do really, really, really well, and then there are certain things, yeah, you can do them, but you kind of suck at it. Don't do that stuff. Let them go to somebody else to do it. Focus on what you're really, really good at, and just continue to get really, really good at it. And that's my show. So.
Woo! Yes, yeah. Do you want to jump out of screen share, and we can go back to just the three of our little cute faces here?
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Shannon. I don't know if you have a question, Laura. We're a little bit over time, but I think we do like one question.
Yeah, just one question for you, Shannon. What strategies have you been using to shift away from the scarcity mindset and move more into abundance mentality?
Meditation. I meditate. Actually, a very good friend, I think she might still be on here, Canacia, she can tell when I haven't meditated. So there she is. Nice. So meditation, I set time aside for myself to meditate, especially during the week when I've got sales calls, because the whole point of the sales calls is to get the client and have them want to work with you. So meditation and these little mantras that I say, and 2017 was so when I started my business now, which was August 7th of 2017, I did hit 6 figures for the first time. It was actually over my goal. So, and that's because of mantras and remote year too. Like, I think remote year, like, talk about hustle. So, my goal for this next year is to double it.
Awesome, Shannon. And I saw Andre just poked the question in here, but we're over time. Andre, you and Shannon would connect on Slack. Shannon, are you cool if people reach out to you on Slack to ask questions or to hear more about your story?
Absolutely.
Cool. Shannon is a great company, good vibes. I can attest from our hangouts together at the Nation House and the CC and whatnot. And thanks again, you and Flavius. I think both your stories, there's so much to learn from them, and just really cool and brave, like Laura said, for you guys to share them. It's not an easy thing to talk about. It's some of your worst or most difficult moments in your professional career, but I think they really can help out the people that are wise enough to show up to this kind of thing and listen. So thanks to you guys who joined. Thanks to you, Laura, for bringing this to the nation.
Thank you, Travis. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.